And one of the things I've noticed over the course of my life is that the best work that I do happens when I'm not in the picture. My name is John, and I've been obsessed with the process of creation and innovation and experimentation for as long as I can remember. It's led me down lots of different paths. Some of those have been more practical, career-based decisions. Some of those have been things like self-development or spirituality, and some of those have been offshoots of those things. But the central focus that's always fascinated me is, how do we create things, and how can I as an individual create things better, to a better standard, more efficiently, more consistently? And for those of you who may be involved in a creative process of some description that requires skill, I'm not saying that this doesn't have any value, but I'm saying this doesn't do the heavy lifting. See, skill is something that we learn, something that we can see others doing, or we can read a book, or we can watch a tutorial, and we can go through the process of practice to refine or hone that skill. But at some point, we have to let go even of the notion of the skill being something that we possess. We let go of the constraints and the labels and the limitations that we started to work within, and we expand that skill into the boundaries of what could be considered art. Now, I'm not saying I'm the best artist out there. I have my own obsessions and I see things through my own perspective. But what I have observed is that when I loosen the grip that I have on the preferences, the expectations and the timelines in that rigid and fixed degree that so many of us have, then what tends to happen is inspiration comes in ways that I couldn't have planned or scheduled or expected. Often in the moments it's exactly needed. And when you're in the company of other people and you get to experience that, it's a beautiful experience. And I find as I go through life and I want to create to an even higher standard, to the best of my ability, that this notion of surrender becomes more of a lived experience than a concept. I was carrying with me some ideas into making this video, and they're sitting here on a notepad next to me, and I'm doing my best not to pay too much attention to those, because even now I want to bring in the idea that I have that will provide you the most value on what surrender really means in the creative process. But the reality is it happens in a way that's completely organic and spontaneous when it's allowed to. Now, over the course of my life, I found myself in lots of situations, work-wise, relationship-wise, friendship-wise, and just generally in life, where I have, let's say, had to endure hardships. And I don't want to go into the details of each of those in this video because I don't think that's strictly relevant, but suffice to say, any of you out there who have endured hardships have probably discovered at some point throughout that process, you have been holding and holding and holding. Whether it's trying to come up with a solution to a problem, understand something, solve some kind of tension within a relationship. There's a point whereby that holding becomes suffering. You start to go, why can't I work this out? Why is this not yielding the result I wanted to? And then there's another point further down the line, which I'm sure many of you have arrived at in your own way, either by coming to the realization that, you know what, I don't care anymore, I give up, or by changing your state, doing some exercise, having an alcoholic drink or something similar. Just taking the focus off of the thing that seems really important, then all of a sudden, I've got it. That's surrender. We live in a world where creativity and innovation, I would say, are more important now than they ever have been. We have rigid and fixed views towards things like health, towards economy, towards politics and law and governance, towards the structure of workplaces and how humans should conduct themselves in certain situations. And all of these things, they narrow us down further and further and further into a smaller and smaller space, which we're not supposed to inhabit because our life is infinitely expansive. And as we come up against these boundaries in lots and lots and lots of different places, we feel a creative repression. And those of us who understand our nature as creators have found ways to circumvent this, to get around it. For me, it's being in nature. But for those of us who don't understand that, it's inevitable that there will be a struggle and maybe even some suffering. So I feel it's imperative that we step outside of those things to create new ways of interacting with this world, new ways of interacting with each other, especially because technology has this wonderful ability to take away many of our simpler burdens. And how are we going to do that? Well, we can't do that by thinking within the existing structures. We can't do that by using the frameworks that we have and trying to reinvent them. We have to put them to one side and consider that if they didn't exist, what would we build from scratch today? And every single one of you, regardless of what you consider yourself to be, whether you think of yourself as a creator or a creative or an innovator or anything, it doesn't matter what you think of yourself as, even if you don't, you are at some level wired to look more deeply into things. And if you don't have healthy channels for that, then you're going to look more deeply into things which are unhealthy. And that can only yield results of the same kind. And also, no doubt you will feel the frustration that comes when there is a part of you, a voice in the back of your head or in your body that's saying, you're wasting your life. You're meant for more than this. And the truth is, you are meant for more than this. Not because you are in some way lacking in this moment, because there is something wrong with you. You're meant for more than this because that's your nature. Your nature is more expansion. I'm surrounded by trees, and these trees will continue growing until someone either cuts them down or they die. It's the tree's nature to continue to grow as long as the circumstances and the conditions favor that. If you have circumstances and conditions in your life which favor your growth, then growth is inevitable. If you don't, then you will feel a sense of stagnation. And what is stagnation? Well, it's a slow decay. It's a slow death. I don't want to say it that way, but that's the reality of it. If we aren't growing, we are dying. And so what can we do about that? Well, those feelings inside which are hinting at a life which is unfulfilled, they're not feelings to be avoided. That's a voice inside of you saying, you're meant for more than this. You can be more than this. You have permission to be more than this. And nothing that anyone tells you can stop you from doing that. And if you make just a small amount of space in your life to listen to that voice and to follow that feeling and just to follow it inside your body and see where it goes and see how it decides to express itself through you, what you may take interest in or fascination in, you will find that suddenly your life gains a dimension of vibrancy that previously was unavailable. And you will find that as you give yourself permission to enjoy the things that you enjoy, you stop caring about what other people think. Because if you're enjoying something for him or for her or for them, you're not doing it for you. And it's your life. I'm not encouraging you to be selfish at the expense of other people, but I'm encouraging you to take some time for yourself to discover what works for you, to discover the things that you may consider to be guilty pleasures that you don't like talking to people about, that you might be embarrassed about. Own those things, because that's where your life exists. And I mean the sense of aliveness that will radiate through your eyes when other people see you. The things that you wake up for in the morning, eager to get started on. And they don't have to be big things. And all of us that follow those pursuits inside, we're never led astray. Rumi, the Sufi poet, said, follow the strange pull of what you love. It will not lead you astray. And when we follow the pull of the things which excite us, which bring us that sense of aliveness and bring life back to us, not only do we start to engage in more positive and healthy pursuits, but the creative flow will heal us because we're giving our life to something. Any of you who have children can probably, or young animals, you can remember when you first saw that child that was first born, a feeling of aliveness and presence that was with you in that moment. Or those of you who had young animals, you've that feeling of aliveness and presence in that moment, just like there is here in nature. And it exists by going inside. You can't distract yourself for long. And surrender is the listening to that. It's the coming back to that over and over and over again, so that you allow yourself to be guided down new paths, or perhaps familiar paths in a different way. You allow yourself to look more deeply into the things that you may have been ashamed of. And you allow yourself to heal by letting go of the limitations that have been imposed upon you by those around you, by your societies, by your families perhaps, or your workplaces. Because truly you are free from all of these things. And you are free to create better. And you deserve better, all of us do. And you can do all of that knowing that in this very moment you are enough. Knowing that in this very moment there is no reason why you cannot pursue more for the joy of pursuit. Now, if that strikes a chord in you, tell me. It's very helpful for me to know that there is value in this for others. If you disagree, tell me also. It'd be interesting to know what your thoughts are on this, how you feel. But if something in this resonates with you, there is more to come. And I'd invite you to stick around. I'd also invite you to press that like button, press the subscribe button, because YouTube thrives on engagement. This channel, for me, is an outlet for my desire to create more creators, to help those creators who want to create better, to connect with the essence of creative spirit inside of themselves, to bring their gifts to this world, because that's what the world needs. And so I invite you to join me.